It's finally here! After months and months of waiting, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has finally returned. Yes, that's right, WandaVision has finally been released on Disney+. Well, the first 2 episodes anyway. And so here we go, I'm gonna make videos on each weekly release. So let's start with these first 2 episodes, and oh my god, this show is crazy. These 2 episodes were absolutely nuts. If that's any indication, then the rest of the show, I can only imagine. There is a lot to cover, so let's get started. Let's dive into the very first episode of Marvel Studios' first television series. WandaVision. So the first episode, the shorter one, it's 27 minutes long. It starts out immediately in the 50s black and white sitcom setting, and it starts with Wanda and Vision driving their just married car into town. So there's no build up, no prologue, we don't get any explanation. It's just here we are. Which I did predict the show would start out that way, to really throw viewers for a loop, because now we're all like, what the hell is going on here? But my god, this show just really commits to the vibe. This first episode truly felt like a 50s sitcom. I mean, not just the black and white and the 4:3 aspect ratio, that's easy. No, the editing, the acting, the cinematography, the lighting, it all just felt so genuine. I mean, at this point, it's not really surprising, because that's the attention to detail that Marvel Studios is known for at this point. The little details that you don't even think about sometimes that make a vibe feel genuine. You just gotta give them all sorts of props for this. They really went the extra mile. So this episode starts out with this theme song written by Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, the songwriters of the Frozen movies. So these songs are gonna be good. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit happening supposedly behind the scenes of this reality. The first real odd thing that's obvious in this episode was the commercial break, which, oh my god, the commercial break? Are you guys fucking serious? Again, really going the extra mile. But when they're advertising that oven or whatever it is, this toaster created by Stark Industries, which if you know your MCU lore, Stark Industries was not around in the 1950s, so that's a little off. But of course, the big blaring giveaway that something's wrong here is that the light on that oven thing was blinking red. It actually took me a second to notice that was weird, because I was like, oh yeah, the toaster's blinking red. Wait a minute, red and black and white? Ooh, whoa, hey, a little color. Okay, something strange is going on there. Maybe it has something to do with Stark Industries. That's like a breach in the time period. Like, uh-oh, Stark Industries in the 50s? That does not compute. That's not real. Colors fading in. A couple of other things that threw me off. I mean, you have Wanda and Vision. They're in their little sitcom reality. They're doing their little, script where Vision has a job. He's typing really fast. But one thing I thought of is the fact that people are just fine with the fact that his name is Vision. Like, Wanda introduces her husband, Vision, and people are like, oh, hi, Vision. I have no problem with that name, apparently. That might just be a detail, but with the attention to detail that Marvel Studios is known for, I feel like that might come into play later on in the show. That's just a guess of mine. We'll see how it goes. Of course, the big holy shit scene in this first episode was during that dinner with Fred Malamed and Deborah Jo Rupp. They start asking about Wanda and Vision's story like you saw in the first trailer. They're having trouble answering the question. And then Mr. Hart starts choking on his food, and it's really, killing him. He collapses to the floor, but you see Mrs. Hart, Deborah Jo Rupp, she's still going, stop it, and she's looking at Wanda. She has this creepy grin, and she's looking at Wanda, and she's still saying, stop it. So you're like, what? Okay, your theories start going in your mind, because she's looking at Wanda and saying, stop it, probably meaning, hey, Wanda, stop this reality you're forcing on us, because we're unwilling victims here. That's a theory I have. I'll get into it later. But that scene was really effective. I was like, holy shit. That's really the biggest moment in this first episode. I mean, at the very end, you get another mind-blowing holy shit moment. Or the episode ends, and you see the names coming up, Wanda Maximoff, Vision, and it's like, WandaVision, and you see the aspect ratio change from 4:3 to widescreen ratio, and you see that this episode is being monitored by Sword. So yes, Sword is officially introduced in WandaVision. Sword is here now. You see someone sitting at a desk taking notes from this TV screen that's showing the WandaVision episode. And before I go into the second episode, I should probably talk about that closing credits animation. You see these objects forming like Scarlet Witch's classic headband and bridges and buildings and shit. It's all colored like classic television, the RBG, that is red, blue, green. And Christoph Beck's score in this show is absolutely fantastic. Holy god. I mean, not just during these closing credits, but, the 50s style music during the sitcom scenes. Again, another factor into this whole thing feeling so genuine. It's just brilliant. All right, now into the second episode. We are now in the 60s. I personally love the 60s. They were home to my favorite band of all time, the Beatles. But I mean, you got that cartoony intro that totally reminded me of Bewitched, which I'm sure was intentional. It's right on the nose. Scarlet Witch, Bewitched. yeah, obviously they're gonna do that. But during that animated sequence, all the faces, I recognized them from either the trailers or the first episode. Like Catherine Hahn's character Agnes, who really is a nosy neighbor. You saw that in the first episode. She really can be nosy. And you see another big new character who I'll get to later. So alright, now we're in the 60s. Dick Van Dyke show, Bewitched. I actually heard that Dick Van Dyke himself was consulted for the making of this episode. I mean, come on. I love Dick Van Dyke. So the sitcom plot of this second episode is that Wanda and Vision are putting on this magic act for the town talent show. And one thing that I actually didn't notice until later, but I'm gonna touch on it now, is the fact that Vision's magician name is Illusion. Like towards the end of the episode, I was like, oh, Vision's name being Illusion? That's like telling right there. It's really like, Vision's an illusion. See, Vision is an illusion. Like Vision himself is not there because he's dead. He's an illusion. See, his magician name is Illusion. You get it. But the episode starts with that clip they released on Jimmy Kimmel where they're in bed and they're hearing noises outside, which, yeah, that's a pretty funny scene. Oh, and also the laugh track. Okay. I might be in the minority here, but I love laugh tracks. Like I said in my videos about the trailers, I love sitcoms. I love canned laughter because I feel like when I'm watching them with a crowd and I have people to enjoy it with, which, let's face it, is the best way to watch anything. So the fact that WandaVision features a laugh track in these early episodes, again, I just think that's great. So much greatness. But okay, so these noises outside, what the hell are they? You get the feeling that S.W.O.R.D. has something to do with it, because Wanda goes outside, she sees that helicopter, which is colored, this red and yellow helicopter, and again, if you look at it, it's got a S.W.O.R.D. logo on the front. So right there, if you didn't know after the first episode, you know now. The organization S.W.O.R.D. is in play here. In some way, shape, or form, we don't know yet. They're either monitoring this reality or controlling it, or both. However, there's a line that Catherine Hahn says in this episode that really caught my attention. It's the scene where Wanda is with that group of ladies by the pool, and I think it was Dottie who was like, the devil's in the details, and then Agnes leans towards Wanda, she's like, that's not the only place where the devil is, or something like that. Now, on the surface, that might just be a funny-ish line for the audience, but I'll be honest, I've been watching a lot of New Rock Stars lately. It's a YouTube channel that theorizes about comic book movies and TV shows and shit, and a lot of Eric Voss's videos about WandaVision have theorized about Mephisto showing up, which I know Mephisto because he was in the Infinity Gauntlet comic, which my brother read, not me. But Mephisto is this demon-like being who's supposedly really powerful in the ways of hell. And New Rock Stars Eric Voss has been theorizing like crazy, oh, Mephisto might show up in the show, Mephisto. I never believed it because there have been no hints toward Mephisto ever at all in the Infinity Saga or in any of the trailers or anything, so I was like, nah, Mephisto's not gonna show up in this show. But now that line that Agnes said where she's like, that's not the only place where the devil is, had me going like, oh shit, maybe Mephisto will show up in this show. There's another hint in this episode towards that I'll get to later. Let's talk about some other shit. This episode introduces Monica Rambo to the fold, and I think Tiana Paris is doing an absolutely fantastic job. Funny thing though is that when she introduces herself to Wanda, she actually hides her true identity. She calls herself Geraldine, which made me think, I wonder why. Probably because she's an agent of S.W.O.R.D. But S.W.O.R.D. doesn't want Wanda to know about them yet, so Monica Rambo here is hiding her true identity. And then pretty soon after that, there's another big, huge holy shit moment where the radio starts going nuts, and you hear Jimmy Woo's voice, which, yeah, you heard that in the trailers and TV spots, this scene. You hear him go, Wanda, can you read me? Who's doing this to you? And yeah, the fact that he said, who's doing this to you? Again, maybe Wanda is not the one making this reality for herself. Maybe it's being done to her by Mephisto or something. And this whole scene with the radio is acting up. There's this like energy outburst or something. Dottie's glass shatters in her hand and you see her blood on her hand and it's actually red, like it's colored red. And it's at that point, I was watching this with a friend of mine. We both realized everything that's been colored in this show so far has been red. The blinking light on the toaster thing, the helicopter, and now the blood, they've all been red. Now, a couple guesses here, that could be because of just, Wanda's energy. She's a Scarlet Witch, her energy has always been seen as red. But another guess could be that Mephisto is behind this, and this is like some sort of hell illusion of some kind, and colors seeping through, and it's all red because of hell and shit. That could be possible. I don't think this red coloring is S.W.O.R.D's doing. So maybe Mephisto, if I'm theorizing here, is the one controlling this reality. But then again, there are other scenes where you see Wanda trying to defend this reality for herself. She wants to keep things the way they are. The part at the end of this episode is a clear example. After this whole talent show plot is done, Wanda and Vision go home, and now all of a sudden Wanda's pregnant, now out of the blue. That's where she looks at Vision, she's like, is this really happening? And then you hear that loud outside noise again, and this is where the really intriguing shit comes along. That beekeeper climbing out of the sewer that you saw in the trailers. You see he has a sword logo on the back of his outfit, he turns and gives this really creepy look to Wanda, and then Wanda's just like, no. And you see the episode like rewind itself, so you get the feeling that Wanda's the one doing that. And then it goes back to the scene where they're discovering that she's pregnant. She's like, is this really happening? And then instead of noises going on outside, the picture starts turning from black and white into color. That's the whole transformation scene that you saw in the trailers. And that's the end of the second episode of WandaVision. After it ended, I was just left sitting there like, oh my god. I have so many theories just exploding out of my mind. I mean, the big question now is just who is behind this illusionary reality? Is it Wanda herself? Is it Sword? Is it Mephisto? What role is Sword exactly going to play in this show? Is Catherine Hahn's character Agnes really Agatha Harkness? In which case, could she be tied with Mephisto somehow? When that beekeeper came out and looked at Wanda, for a second I was like, is that Mephisto? He had a creepy look about him. That face he made I thought was quite menacing. How much does Wanda know about what's going on here? And as for the extras, the commoners of this town, I had a theory that like when Wanda first moved to this town, did she just take over the entire place? Meaning, in a way, did her magic just possess everyone into being like 50s and 60s sitcom versions of themselves? That might explain why Deborah Jo Rupp was looking at Wanda being all like, stop it, stop it, stop this reality. Or why Dottie was looking at Wanda being like, you're weird. We're suspicious about you because you do weird shit. Or my friend who I was watching this with had another theory that maybe this whole thing is inside Wanda's mind, like the sword parameter you saw in the trailer. Maybe they're keeping Wanda in some kind of containment unit and this whole reality is in her head and they're like studying her for whatever reason. I have no idea. Theories galore. All I know for sure is that these first 2 episodes of WandaVision were a great, fantastic, so out of the blue in a great way to start off the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 4. We are in it now. Phase 4 has officially begun. I love these episodes. I'm gonna be watching them again and again and again all week long. And so now I leave it to you. Have you watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision yet? What do you think about them? What are your theories? What do you think is going on here? Just what are your thoughts on this craziness? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.